You can all hear me. Very good. Okay, you can all hear me. And welcome. Thank you for being here. For those of you who haven't been with these workshops before, I look at today's workshop about feet as probably the most important workshop for anatomy that maybe you've ever been in. How's that for raving about this workshop? But it's not so much what I'm going to present. It's more about having you start to pay attention to that part of our anatomy that we just so, for the most part, ignore. Here we have these things called feet, and they're these sort of triangular parts of our anatomy that's only a couple of inches wide at the heel and a few inches wide at the box of our toes, and they're required to hold our entire bodies up. These things that are way down here, these fins that are down here at the ground, 5 feet or so, or away from our eyes, and we sort of take them for granted. Maybe we will only pay attention to our feet if they're hurting, or if there's something wrong with them, or we stub our toe. Then we pay attention to our feet. Or for women, you might pay attention to your feet if you're getting a pedicure or you're getting your nails polished. That's about the only time that we really pay attention to our feet, as opposed to recognizing that our feet are the communication to the ground. And when we start losing communication to the ground with our feet, it's going to affect everything clear on up to your head. Everything, your shoulders, everything. But I want to start with a disclaimer. And the disclaimer that I'm going to start with is that I'm not a podiatrist. So if you have real severe problems with your feet, such as peripheral neuropathy or diabetes or other sort of circulation problems, not necessarily everything I'm going to say today is going to be pertinent to you. So you pay attention to your feet, because they're your feet. I'm going to take you through a little bit of anatomy right now. Then we're going to do part of a routine that I do every single morning. Then I'm going to talk more about shoes and how they affect your whole anatomy. And then we'll start working on your toes as well. And this is also part of my morning routine. I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, and I do a whole foot thing, and that's what we're going to be working with today. So keep in mind that our feet they're not just those things that are down there. In our whole body, we have 206 bones, approximately, all these bones. But of these 206 bones, 52 of them are in our feet. Just think about that. That's a fourth of all the bones in your whole body are down there. We have 360 joints. A joint is where either 2 bones come together or 3 bones come together. It's called a joint. We have 360 joints. 66 of these joints are down there in our feet. Man, that's pretty important. And when we start thinking about the feet, and then you combine that with the ankles, you've got a lot of stuff that's going on down there that we often just ignore. We have 600 muscles in our whole body. 40 muscles are in our feet. That's a lot of muscles. So you think about your foot. It's a very complex part of our anatomy, and the sole of our foot, making contact and communication with the ground, is critical for balance. It's critical for holding you up. It's critical for how you're walking, climbing stairs. Everything you're doing starts down there with your feet. So the props that you need today is a chair to sit on, but we'll be sitting on it later on. You need a ball. Now, I recommended earlier that we use a little rubber ball. I use this ball called the yoga tune-up ball. It's a rubber ball. It's kind of mushy, but it's firm at the same time. If you don't have a yoga tune-up ball, you could use any other kind of ball. The difference between this ball and other balls is that this ball can kind of really get kind of deeper down in between all these little muscles and joints and ligaments and tendons that we've got here. If you don't have that, anything that's round can do. I even tried using an onion yesterday, and the onion, it worked. It really worked. The only problem was it was a little bit too big to get into all the little crevices. I also tried using an apple. An apple worked pretty well too. I wasn't going to use a tomato though, because I figured, well, if I use a tomato and I push down too hard, we'll end up with a big mess on the floor. So any of those things you can certainly use. And now we're going to start right in with the routine that I do every single morning for your feet. So come stand up. Oh, by the way, I say stand up. If this puts too much pressure on your foot to stand up, everything that I'm going to be doing with the ball under your foot can also be done sitting down. But I'm going to stand up, move the chair away, readjust the screen here. I'm going to start with your left foot. No reason why. I'm just going to start with the left foot just because we're starting with the left foot. And then we'll do the right foot after that. So take your ball, whatever ball you're using. Think of the arch of your foot. The arch of your foot is this part of your foot which kind of goes up. Everybody knows where your arch is. But think of the arch being the inner part of your arch, which is on the big toe side, and the outer part of your arch, which is on the little toe side. And I want you to start by putting the ball right in the middle of your foot, right in the middle of the arch. Have your heel down and put as much weight into the ball as you can, and just stand there. Find the spot so your front part of your foot is draping over the ball. Take a few nice breaths. Stand up nice and tall. If you have to sit down, that's okay. But you really want to start just putting some pressure into that part of your ball, of the foot. And now from here, I'd like you to do some inversions and eversions. We talked about that with your ankle last week. So you're going to turn your foot so that the little toe comes down to the floor. And then you're going to turn it the other way, so as much as possible, the big toe side comes to the floor. That's eversion. Inversion, eversion. Go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, letting the ball roll, roll, roll from side to side, over, over. So it's not just riding straight across, your ankle is turning. And now take this ball and roll it a little bit so that it's close to the big toe side. And now really mash it down hard. And now move your foot to the right as the ball kind of squishes all the way over to the little toe. And then reset the ball, do it again. Put it inside it's on the arch, it's in the arch. But it's on the big toe side, press down really hard, push that foot aside, across, and do it again. And now move the ball down to closer to your heel, still staying in the arch, and push it across all the way over to the little toe side. Now, keep the ball right there at the little toe side, press really hard down and scoop your foot to the left so it moves across to the big toe side. Again, reset your ball, put your foot down on it, press really hard, and across, and again, press down really hard, and across, and now put the ball under your heel. And as if you're trying to crush something with your heel, Press it really hard, and then turn your foot, fan your foot from side to side. Maybe your toes lift off the floor a little bit, really grinding that ball into the earth. And now roll the ball up to the ball of your foot. Now the balls of your foot are right behind, just south of your toes, or just going towards your heel. And now, having the ball right at the balls of your foot, I want you to do inversion and eversion. So you can see when you're doing this on your own, you can do it as long as you want or as short as you want. Now, roll the ball so your toes are draped over the ball, and grab the ball as if you're making a toe fist. Really squeeze the ball hard, and maybe some of you have long enough toes and strong enough toes where you can actually lift the ball off the floor. Try that. I can't. Squeeze the ball really hard, like you're trying to crush that ball, and then release. You do it a couple of times. Squeeze tight and release. Let's do it one more time. Squeeze tight and release. Now, lastly, on this left foot, let the ball just roll all the way from the back to the front, slowly, making sure that the ball is covering the entire foot, putting pressure into it, and you determine how much pressure you're going to be putting into it. Making sure you're covering the whole outside part of your foot, the middle of your foot, the inside part of your foot, and now roll it fast. Notice that there's a slight difference in the sensation of the nerves and the muscles, that you're sending a different message up into your body. And now let's do exactly the same thing that we just did with the right foot. So start by putting the ball under the middle part of your right foot. Heel is down, and let your foot just kind of drape over the ball. For some people, just doing this is extremely difficult to do. Just breathe, take a few nice deep breaths. And now let's do that inversion and eversion. Remember, you're not just sliding it from side to side, you're actually rolling it. You're doing cross fiber of the muscles that are down there. We have all these different muscles that are there. And now roll the ball a little bit closer to your toes. On the big toe side, press down really hard and move your foot to the left so the ball scoots across to the little toe side. Again, reset it, push it down, slide it across. Again, push it down, slide it across. Now stay there on the little toe side, but bring the ball down more closer to your heel. Press down really, really hard and slide the ball so it goes towards the big toe side. And again, reset the ball. Press down really hard and move it across. Let's do it one more time. Press down, across. Nice. Put the ball under your heel. Let your toes lift up a little bit. Press down, put all your weight into the heel, and then let your foot swivel from side to side to side to side, as if you're mashing something into the ground hard. And now slide the ball up to the balls of your feet, ball of your foot, and then invert and evert. So notice that this is closer to your toes. And now make that ball fist, or the toe fist. So squeeze the ball really tight and see if you can lift the ball up off the floor. Maybe you can with one foot, maybe you can't with the other. Squeeze the ball really, really, really tight and loosen it. Tight, 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 tight. Let's get those muscles working. Loose and tight, 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 and loose. And then let the ball roll all the way forward, all the way back. Covering the entire body, sole of your foot, from the heel all the way to the toes. Cover every part. You can roll fast, you can roll slow. Notice there's a different sensation that you get when you're doing it one way or the other. You can make little circles, make figure eights, and that's it. Put the ball away. Have a seat. Talk a little bit now. Have lotion ready. I've got a little bottle of lotion that I'm going to be using on my feet. So you'll have some lotion. And I want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of the foot. I want to talk about how the relationship that we have with our feet and our hands to start with. I want you to imagine that not imagine, but think about this for a second. Here you have your hands, and you have fingers on your hands, and think how your hands would be if you didn't have the ability to move each finger independently and together. How would that be for you? It would not be good. So it was sort of like if you got up in the morning, got dressed, and then after you got dressed, you put on gloves like this. Well, you probably could function throughout the day. My fingers can move a little bit. They can do something. I probably could pick certain items up. I probably could drive a car. And I could do most of everything. But my fingers are all mushed together. They can't really do much. My thumbs can do a little bit of something. So I would survive. I would make it throughout the day. Obviously, you don't do this in your day. You don't, when you get dressed, you don't put on oven mitts to start your day. But what we do, unfortunately, is we put on shoes that do the same thing. We put on shoes that then make our feet, take our toes and squish them together. And what does that do? It prevents our feet, our toes, from doing what they're supposed to do. The largest manufacturer of shoes in the world, or athletic shoes in the world, is Nike. Second is Adidas, and third is New Balance. They all have the same thing in common. What they want to do is they want to provide comfort for your feet, which is great, but they're athletic shoes, and they're made mostly for people who want to run in some way or another. So they make our feet as comfortable as can be, and they also, in the typical athletic shoe, they make the heel slightly higher than the forefoot. Now, for running, that makes a lot of sense, or it may make some sense. So it's not a big deal. It's like maybe they raise it 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters or maybe up to 10 millimeters. They're not putting you into high-heeled shoes, not stilettos, but they're raising it up a little bit. So when you're running, you're putting pressure on the forefoot, on the front part of your foot. That makes sense, or can make sense. But what about when you're standing? You have to have this little bit of elevation. So we call this heel to toe drop, is what it is. It's how it's measured. So if you have a heel that's really high, much higher than the front part of your foot, that has a high elevation. And when you lower it down, it has less and less and less and less and less and less and less until you come down to a flat foot. Years ago, when I started in yoga, obviously you go into a yoga class and everybody's barefoot. And I always kind of like the feeling. But then when you get through with the class, you put on your shoes, whether they be dress shoes or athletic shoes, and you immediately put your foot into your heel is in an elevated position. What happens is it affects in a couple of ways. So from an anatomical perspective, if you're standing and your heels are up a little bit, even if it's up just a little bit, your body has to make some sort of minor adjustment. Obviously, if you're in a big high heel stiletto kind of a shoe, you're going to have to make all kinds of adjustments with your anatomy. But when you're a little bit raised, you still have a shortening of your calves, a shortening of your hamstrings, and what that's going to do is it's going to affect your hips, it's going to affect your lower back. Now, if all your life you've been walking around with these slightly elevated shoes, your body has adjusted to it in all kinds of ways. A difficulty is when you're raised like this, it's putting more pressure on your knees. So if any of you have ever had knee problems, maybe it's because your heels are raised. Maybe. I'm not a podiatrist. It's certainly a possibility, because as you're walking along, even just walking along, you're putting more pressure on the knee by having your heels raised up even a little bit. I want to show you a few different shoes that I've got. There are many different shoes companies that have what we call zero drop. Zero drop is where there's no difference between your heel and your toe. It's as if your foot is flat. Now, I feel that is the best way to walk for most people to have that. Unfortunately, though, some of the manufacturers make a very thin sole, which makes it a little bit more, you feel the ground more, which is a good thing, but not if you have very sensitive feet. So, for example, I have this pair from a company called Xero, X-E-R-O. They have a this is a flat shoe. Let me turn this a little bit different way. It has very thin at the bottom, and I'm not a Xero salesman, and I'm not pushing this particular brand, but this is a brand and it has a very wide box, and it's very flexible, so it's really as close to a bare foot as you can get. Now, for some people, having a thin sole like this makes it too uncomfortable to be walking around on uneven terrain or gravel. So you can go one step up. This is a company called Altra, A-L-T-R-A, and this too, even though it looks like it's has a raise in the heel, it really does not, but it has more padding. But it also has a nice wide box right here in the front, and it's very, very comfortable. Sticking with Ultra again, here's the same thing. Also, once again, flat, no elevation from the heel to the toe, but more padding on the bottom. And again, this is going to give you this flat foot, which is going to be more natural to you. Let's see. And this Xero company, the Xero company, even makes dress shoes for men and for women. So this is the dress shoe. Nice wide box, so your toes aren't mushed together. Your toes now can start doing something, and it's got some padding, some cushioning on the bottom. This is as compared to shoes that are typical shoes. This is a Hoka shoe. This has got a high heel, and it rocks and rolls like this when you walk. I don't recommend this. This has got a higher elevation here than here. Here's an old hiking shoe that I have. Also, lots of padding under here. So if you're walking on a really rocky terrain, it might be difficult if you don't feel anything. The problem with not feeling anything is that you lose the ability to have the earth or the ground, or even if it's just walking on a sidewalk, send signals to your body that you need to have. And the last thing I want to talk about with this elevation and anatomy is calluses. I'm sure that some of you, from time to time, may have developed some calluses on your feet. And then you've maybe have taken something like a pumice stone and scraped the calluses off because, oh, these calluses are terrible. Next time you have calluses, remember or think about that calluses are wonderful. I know that might sound like strange, that calluses are wonderful. Yeah, they are. They're nature's way of providing a shoe. Because calluses have a high blood supply, but they don't stop the transmission of information of whatever you're getting from the ground to the nerves of your foot. So what happens is you're getting something from the ground. It's some sort of information from the earth, from the ground, and it hits a callus, and all that information goes right through the callus and right through into your foot. So it protects your foot, so that you don't want to remove the calluses at all. You have calluses on your feet. That's great. It's like wearing shoes without wearing shoes. As you know, I've talked about this woman, Katie Bowman, who I have the greatest respect for. And Katie and her husband took a trip to Thailand and were walking around and all. And the husband decided to get a massage, and he did. And it was such a great massage that he fell sound asleep on the massage table. And while he was asleep, the massage person, the masseuse, looked at his feet, and they were loaded with calluses because he is developed as barefoot walking. And so while he was asleep, she took off all of his calluses, shaved them all off, thinking that she was doing him a favor. But as it turned out, it wasn't a favor at all. Now all of a sudden he had very sensitive feet, and it took him a year or so to rebuild the calluses. So next time you have calluses, please keep the calluses on. They're good for you. Now we're going to start working on your toes. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh yeah, I have. Orthotics. Not that long ago, I had a problem with one of my feet, and I went to a podiatrist, I went to a shoe specialist who looked at my feet, and he did all kinds of stuff, and he had me measure my foot on a machine, and he built orthotics for my foot. And it cost, I don't know, $400 or $500 to have this, and it made my foot feel really good. I don't know if any of you are wearing orthotics now. Maybe you've gone to the drugstore and you've bought inserts. And the purpose of orthotics and the purpose of inserts is to make your feet feel good, pain-free. That's the good part of it. The bad part of it is it puts your foot to sleep. It's sort of like putting your foot into like putting it on a soft pillow or a nice pillow. So you're walking around with orthotics or an insert or shoes that that make your feet feel really comfortable and really good. And then we can forget about our feet. And when we start forgetting about our feet, because our feet are now asleep, because they're being taken care of either by orthotics or insert or just a great pair of shoes from Nike or New Balance, we lose the ability of having our feet send these messages up our body for our anatomy. And then we wonder why we're having some problems with our back, or we wonder why we're having some problems with our shoulders or our neck. All of this starts here. This front chain that comes up, that starts in the front of our body, comes all the way up through our face. We have a back chain that goes all the way from the sole of our feet up the backs of our legs, all the way up to the top of our head, and even over to our eyebrows. But everything is connected. So if you lose the basic connection called our foundation, our feet, then you're inviting all kinds of stuff into your anatomy, and you don't realize that it's from your feet. I highly recommend that if you do start getting some of these shoe that I'm recommending, like these zero drop shoes with a little bit of sole protection, that if you start using zero drop shoes, whatever company you decide to get from it, break them in slowly. You've been used to a heel that's up, even if it's not up like this, but it's up a little bit. You have to have your anatomy get used to it. So if you buy a pair that's zero drop, wear it for around the house only, and then start walking outside. And of course, as I've been speaking for the last few weeks about the need to walk, whether you're doing it with this kind of a shoe or whatever kind of shoe, you want to walk on uneven terrain as much as you possibly can, so that your ankle starts to get some mobility as well. Remember, we want to have mobility, we want to have strength. Mobility is how freely you can move your foot or any part of the body, and strength. So let's go into toes now. This is part of the routine that I do every morning as well. So get a bottle of lotion. I've got a little bottle of lotion here. You can have a big bottle of lotion, doesn't matter. And lotion is helpful. We're going to start with your right foot, and then we'll work to the left foot. And this is also part of the routine that I do every single morning. And between using the ball and using the ball for my foot and using the lotion for my toes, the whole thing maybe takes 10 minutes at the most. So I'm not talking about a major time. So your right foot is up on your knee. I'm going to put a little bit of lotion in my hand to make my hand slide on my foot a little bit more easily. I'm going to just start by just massaging my foot. Just giving it a nice little, using my thumbs. And now, one toe at a time. I'm going to take my big toe, I'm going to turn it down. That's called flexion. And then I'm going to push it up. That's called extension. And then I'm going to do it to the second toe. Down and up. And the third one, down and up. Down and up. Down and up. Now, I did this once just now to show you, but when you're doing this at home for yourself, you can go down and up 5 or 10 times, whatever seems to work for you. Now we're going to make some circles with the toe, one toe at a time. So I'm going to take my other hand, my right hand, I'm going to pull my toes, my other toes away, and I'm going to make circles. Make the circles as fast as you can or as slow as you want, whatever it is. Once again, 5 or 10 circles in one direction, 5 or 10 circles in another direction. And now let's go to the other toe. Next toe down. 5 or 10 circles one way, 5 or 10 circles the other way. One toe at a time. Using your right hand to move the other toes aside. And now, one toe at a time, I'd like you to pull on the toe. So this time I'll probably use whichever hand seems to work better for you. I'm going to pull the toe, big toe, and I'm going to hold it. I'd like to hold it for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. You can certainly hold it more. It's like you're pulling it away from your foot, and then grab the next toe and pull it away, also holding maybe for 5 or 10 seconds. And the next toe. And the next toe. And the last toe. Now, clearly, in this workshop, I'm not holding it for 5 or 10 seconds. I'm holding it for a whole lot less. Take your left hand now and weave your fingers in between each toe. Now, for some of you, that might be really hard. Weave them in as deeply as you can. And it might only be just the tips of your fingers. And it might be that some toes are so jammed together that you just can't put your fingers in at all. And once you've got them in as deeply as you can, make a fist with that hand. Like squeeze really tight. Squeeze really tight. We're going to hold this for about 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your fingers in the toes. Relax the tight grip that you've just had, and just let your ankles circle. Nice circles, maybe 5 or 10 circles in one direction, 5 or 10 circles in the other direction. Now take your fingers out and take your left hand. We're going to flex the toes. So take your left hand, put it on top of your foot, and slide it down to your toes. And now all 5 toes, squish them down as much as you can. If you want to help, take your right hand, put it on top to help. Just push your toes down. And normally, once again, it's going to be, how long do you want to hold this? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it's going to feel right for you. And then, the other way, we're going to extend the toes. So I take my left hand, slide it from the arch of my foot up to my toes, bending my toes the other way, putting my right hand on top of my left hand, and pulling my toes back, all 5 toes. And I'll hold this for a while. And release. Take your right foot, bring it back so that you're turning your toes, you're flexing your toes, putting as much weight as you can without causing extra pain. Sit tall, put pressure down into your toes, and once again, you'll hold for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever seems to be right for you. And now we're going to extend the toes. So you push your bottom of your foot down, slide your foot back a little bit further, Slide your body towards the front of your chair so you can really stretch those toes. And now let's do the same thing on the other side. Put your left foot up. Put some lotion in your hand. Start with just massaging your foot. It's waking up your feet. Can you imagine, I mean, I do this every morning. Can you imagine if you would do this every morning? What a way to start the day as far as I'm concerned. And now, from here, we want to bend each toe. We want to flex one toe at a time, bending it down, and then extending it, bending it down, flexing it, and then extending it. Use whichever hand seems to be best for you. Down and extend. Down and extend. Down and extend. And as I said before, on the other foot, you can go down and extend 5 times, 10 times, whichever feels right for you. Now, we're going to make the circles with your foot, with your each toe. So take your left hand, pull your toes away. Take your right hand, grab a hold of your big toe, and make circles. Nice little circles. 5 or 10 in one direction, 5 or 10 in the other direction. And now we'll go to the second toe. 5 or 10 in one direction, 5 or 10 in the other direction. Next. Next. And there are times I'll get up in the morning and I'm a little rushed and I won't do it this long. And some mornings I'll do it longer. But when we're talking about maybe 5 or 10 minutes to start your day, to wake up the most important part of your anatomy, your foundation, it's a good practice to get into, I think. And now we're going to pull each toe and hold. So I'm going to take my big toe, I'm going to pull it as much as I can. I'm going to hold for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. And the second toe, I'm going to grab a hold of it and pull it, whatever way seems to work for you. The third toe. And the fourth toe. And the fifth toe. Last toe, pinky toe. And now take your right hand and weave your fingers in between each toe. You might find a difference from one foot to the other. Pull them in as deeply as you can. And now, once they're in as deeply as you can, squeeze, make a fist with your hand, squeezing like you're really shaking hands with your foot hard. Let's hold this now for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now relax the tension in your hand. Keep your fingers in your toes, in between your toes, but relax your foot and just make gentle circles with your ankle. Maybe 5 or 10 in one direction, and then 5 or 10 in the other direction. And now take your fingers out, take your right hand, put it on top of your foot, slide your hand down to all 5 toes, and bend your toes down. Flex your toes. If you want to help, put your left hand on top and press for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to extend. Take your right hand, slide your toes back, push your toes back. And again, use your left hand to help if you want. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your left foot, put your toes down. You're flexing your toes now. Put as much pressure as you can without causing extra pain. I'm helping by taking my left hand, putting it on my heel, putting a little extra pressure in there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to extend my toes. So I'm going to move forward to the front part of my chair and extend. Now for me, extending on this foot does not feel good. So only put down as much pressure as feels right for you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Have your feet be in front of you. And let's see if you can. I can't, but lift your big toe only. Now let all your toes come up, and then let them come back on down. Again, can you lift your big toe only? And then all your other toes, and down. A few more times. Up. As you notice, I can't isolate my big toes. All my toes come up. And now, lift all toes up and spread your toes like you'd be spreading your fingers. And then put them down. Lift them up, spread them wide, bring them down. Up, spread them, together, down. One last time. Up, out, and down. And now take your towel, if you have a little towel, put it on the floor in front of you. And just using your toes, bring the towel closer to you and push the towel away. Trying to use your toes, not your heels. One foot at a time, both feet, whatever is going to work for you. Notice that we have these muscles in our toes, but unless we're actually flexing the muscles and then releasing and relaxing them, we're not really using the muscles. So squeezing your towel like this, just like when you did some of the movements where you had your fingers in between your toes, now you're making your toe, the muscles in your toes do something besides just flex and extend. And that's it. Pick your towel up, stand up, walk around a little bit. Just walk around, see how your feet feel, the contact that you're making with the ground. These are routines that as I said before, that I do every morning. And I add things to it. For example, after that, I'll use a foam roller, and I'll use a foam roller to roll around on the floor, rolling all kinds of parts of my body. Or I have a stick like this, just a little 1x4, and occasionally I'll be in the bathroom, and I'll be just standing on the, I'll just stand on with one foot and just balance. All these kinds of things you can do throughout the day. And last week, I think I showed you I have a foam roller, or not foam roller, but a half foam. So I can either stand on it like so and do up and down, letting my hip do the work, or I can turn it the other way and use it for balance, letting my ankle do some work.